Hi, everyone. Hi, hello, and welcome. Thanks for being here as we kick off this panel about this beautiful intersection between fashion and music. To drive the conversation today, we have brilliant voices joining us, some people that are contributing in real time to shaping this space. And so, without waiting much longer, I will introduce our guest. We are having Marie Branellec, who's a trusted force in music curation, music supervision, and licensing. She's behind some legendary compilations from the Colette store, the 15 first one to be exact, some compilations that influenced a lot of curators today in France and beyond. She's also been working behind the scene on a lot of Dior catalogs, supporting Michel Gobert and making some creative ambitions reality, basically. Beyond catwalks, she also works on a diverse range of advertising projects and films. Also, a close collaborator of Marie, we have Charlot. Charlotte Henzen is the head of sync at Domino Publishing and Recording. Domino is basically the home of some of the most iconic and genre-defying music. Um, for example, some of the music is the home of Arctic Monkeys, Tirza, Wet Legs, just to cite a few. And yeah, she's the person in charge of basically making sure that that music happens to be on film, on TV, advertisement, and of course, fashion projects. We also have Sidney joining us today, representing a highly revered fashion house, which is Hermès. Sidney is basically the music supervisor at Hermès, overseeing a lot of the fashion houses project that require music on. And beyond his role at Hermès, Sidney is a DJ, he's a curator, and he's founded also his own label called Latency. Finally, last but not least, we have Vincent. Vincent Tajan is the head of music at Louis Vuitton. He has over 20 years of experience that spans between the music industry and the fashion industry. He's overseeing the entirety of the video and film requirements that basically require music for the fashion house. And he also has great experience in INR for some some iconic labels like Z Recording. So just to dive right into it and leave you some space to introduce yourself more deeply yourself. I think all of us and a lot of the people here are wondering, where did you find yourself in this? How did you find yourself in this very heart of the intersection between fashion and music, and how did it all start for you?
Who's starting?
I can s- I
Go
can
ahead.
start if you like. Like let's keep the same order. So you said it. I worked at Colette. So that was a long time ago. I'm an old one, and I curated. I first was a music buyer, and then that was for me the perfect intersection of fashion and music, because the music was totally part of the store identity, and it shaped the atmosphere of the space, and that is something that Colette understood, and so right after that, logically. We went on curating asking Michel Gobert to join and curate compilation together for the store, and well, that was my first approach of music and fashion. I then went on with Michel on the fashion show for first for doing music research curation, a lot of playing fashion shows. We did a lot, and since 10 years, I'm more on the whether licensing side of the fashion shows. Usually the painful, not painful, sorry, the complicated one. When it's simple, they don't call me. So voilà.
Great. What about you, Sydney?
Uh, for me, it's a bit new because I've always been interested in fashion, but I work in fashion since just a few years, 3 years. I joined Hermes quite recently. Before that, I was, as all of us, I think, a music lover from my teenage years, starting DJing, throwing parties, concerts. starting a record label also, which has been really important. And personally, I started in art context. So I was curating, inviting artists to perform in institutions like CCCB, museums in Paris. And right after COVID, there was this like a new opportunity at Hermès. So I always loved fashion, but I'm a new one in the fashion game.
Vincent, I think it's been 13 years that you work at Louis Vuitton, so it's not so new, if I'm not wrong.
It's not new. I think I joined the company a little bit more than 11 years ago. I started working in the digital team in the editorial section. I was in charge of the online magazine that was happening at that time. That was not really music related, but at some point we were producing content and videos, and I was a little bit, let's say, disappointed about the music choice from our agencies or production company directors, and I had ideas because I come from the music world myself. So I learned what was involved in licensing and how do you clear properly a song to make it appear in an advertisement. And from there, I started to do it more and more for my project, but for other people project. And at some point, everything switched, and I created that job of music supervisor at Louis Vuitton, which didn't existed before, and I've been doing this for the past 6 years. Most of my work is licensing music for film, but I also do other aspect of the other. I'm involved in different places in the brand. I do music creation for events that can be very tiny or massive public, and sometimes booking artists for different events. And we also have this hospitality program now. So I'm helping the head of that department to develop a musical identity for their restaurants and cafes. So yes, I'm right in the middle of it.
Right. And for you, Charlotte, you're in the core of the music industry. Would you say that fashion is a big part of the work you do within Domino?
Yeah, it definitely is now, because I obviously have a slightly different background than these lovely people, because I'm on the rights holder side. I think I've worked for various different independent labels or publishers over the years, starting in Amsterdam, and then, because I'm Dutch, and then making the move to London 6 years ago. Obviously, when you're at the rights holder side, you work for different territories. I think if you're on the publishing side, sometimes you only get to work for the UK and Ireland, or just for the Benelux in the past. And in my current role at Domino, my team, we look after the world excluding North America, because we have a separate team there. So that allows us to kind of travel a bit more and have clients across various media industries and territories. And I think because of that, we're doing a lot of business in France mainly. And I think it also very much depends on your catalog, what kind of music you represent, how frequent you have this overlap with fashion. But yeah, currently been at Domino for almost 4 years now. There's a lot of that. So yeah, we work across campaigns, fashion shows. So all these people are very frequent clients of ours.
Great. Yeah, it's no doubt with the catalog you represent. So, yeah, you were saying that basically you are working on so many different nature of project that ranges from hospitality to campaigns to social clips, and the same that you've just been mentioning, Charlotte. Could you tell us a little bit more about how diverse this the type of project that can involve music for a fashion house can be, and also eventually some of the most unexpected ways it involves music somehow?
I mentioned some example, but pretty much nowadays, whatever brands wants to do, there might be a musical element to it, whether it's very tiny and just help, setting a mood for guests entering whatever space, and music is really not the focus, but it's there, and probably 10 years ago, there was less attention. But now I think most brands are willing to invest maybe not money, but at least time and effort to make sure that each aspect is thought properly. But I'm saying this about music. It's also true about, I don't know, lighting or everything. It's trying to be the most dedicated possible. So yes, I'm solicited in many different ways, and there is a lot of little music things happening worldwide at Louis Vuitton that I'm not even aware of because basically I'm at headquarter in Paris, but like whenever there's like a DJ playing in a store in Stockholm, they don't ask me about it. Sometimes I hear about it, sometimes not. That's not the issue, but so basically you have a lot of different type of requests. Some of them are very big with strong visibility, other are more confidential, and my job is trying to get through all of this and secure the right amount of attention needed for each. Um, yes, sometimes the very small project can be fun ones. And if I had to cite an example from the past of an interesting request, I've been asked to my opinion to curate music for a tournament, the card game. Basically, Pharrell, for his last show, wanted his after party to be Uno tournament with all his celebrity friends that were attending the show. So that was something pretty new. And honestly, I had no idea. So well, we ended up using classical music because that's the way he thought people would be the most focused within the game. But yes, you can go from very obvious, okay, we have this new bag in this film and we need music, and sometimes it's just like very random initiative that needs to, and music needs to align to some of it.
Since your role is quite similar, or at least that's what it seems like, would you say it's the same approach for you, Sidney?
It's a bit of the same, but I think Vincent is more involved on the image side, and me at Hermès, I'm much more involved on the event side. It's something that is really specific to the house also, and I'm part of a team that is really overseeing mainly live performances, events. It could be a runway after party, it could be a small press launch. In Japan, it could be a dinner, a celebration of a new store. But we are really, really focused on events. So the vast majority of the artists we invite are part of those events. And as Vincent said, it could be more like sound design, commissioning artists to work on a soundscape or live performances or DJ sets. That's the main part of our scope. And also we have a lot of video and moving image material. And there is a creative team in Paris. We produce a lot of content. It's a bit new to me that I'm also involved on the music part on the image side. But yeah, that's also like every house, I think, the vast majority of projects.
Right, and with so many touch points and ways that it involves music, how do you think fashion houses basically can ensure relevancy and consistency across so many touch points, or do you think they actually does not directly do it? Yeah, I'm curious about your point of view on that.
I don't know about relevancy, yes. Consistency, no. Um, unless you are a very how could I play it? Unless you're a very targeted brand, very specific, with a very strong unilateral image, it's very difficult to have a musical consistency across everything you do. I do not think it's necessary, but you need some kind of relevancy. And same as for a music artist that is trying to launch his career, or a label that wants to release music in the world, they're not really looking for consistency and being kind of always the same. They will want to go in different direction, but in a way that is that makes sense to them and to the audience. So I would say that I think most of the brands and in another level, maybe the artists they're looking to grab a style. Style, I think, is a more relevant word than trend or identity. So that's. But honestly, we're trying to do our best to maintain a level of meaning between our different activations. But honestly, it's difficult, as you can imagine. There's so many factors involved in every project with very different people, very different mindsets, very different budget. So you try to juggle with all those factors and try to make the best of it. And I try to implement something that feels relevant. I don't know from the outside if it feels like it, but yeah, I'm trying.
Great. I guess also it's not necessarily consistency in terms of sound, but it's just meeting some ethos and some principle that allows to have this feeling of relevancy and consistency that is not necessarily sound focused. But speaking of budget and realities, Marie, you're known to make some. You're known. I think you are known to make some creative ambitions, and as you just said it, some complex situations a reality. Could you give us some examples of a situation where there was a mismatch between what was a creative ideal and how it could not happen eventually in the real life, and how did you manage to find a solution to it?
So I work now mainly in synchro, but also on fashion events such as fashion shows when music is and live music is involved, and when there is when a person is needed to coordinate and make sure that everybody understands what's going on. Just that, between the legal, the creative, the legal, the musician themselves, the sound designer, if there is one, also like the music director himself. I think that's it, and so yes, sometimes when you build up some story like that, it's like fashion show doesn't is not prepared like years in advance. So there is, of course, I guess, a few weeks of preparation for the what is material. Also, it's not my field, but musically, we had to put together an act with two live artists plus one composer, arranger, and a local orchestra. We were not in Paris, and at some point, one of the voices artists with the most I don't know in English, the most well known, decided not to come. And this happened only once, and then everybody was there. It was right after COVID. It was one of the first post-COVID show, so there were no audience, but everything was there, like a real show that we filmed. And so we had to. That was with Michel Gobert. We had to and Oliver Coates. I think we had to change the thing. Like we used we used some recording from the missing artist, then rewrote part of the story. Then another singer that was not major in the act became the major part, and everything. I mean, the studio had to dress her again. Everything was changed completely, and it was a big collective effort for everyone. Like the orchestra, you imagine, everything was like completely redone, and in the end, it was well, it was not a failure. It was something different, and I mean, the designer was happy, the public was happy, but it was like wow, I was really it was beautiful also.
I guess
But this is really extreme. But in general, it's not like there is a mismatch or last minute or so. No, you didn't talk about that. Not yet. because it can be always last minute also, but that's
Yeah,
something else.
it's that's quite recurrent that the shows are quite last minute. The fashion shows are quite last minute. I mean, a few weeks in advance. And Charlotte, you
If you're
might
lucky, yeah.
you might
24 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna
More like
say.
this. That's why we need to know each other. We need
Right.
We're on
I
speed
need to know
dial.
that I can call not only Charlotte but many think director in
Yeah.
mostly indie labels are giving a lot for us. We are how do you say, very demanding. I mean,
Not at
to be
all.
polite, to be polite.
And that's why you like working with indie so much, right? Because we pick up the phone. We're so easy to work with.
Yeah, because I mean, you know your artist.
Yeah.
It is a human side also. It's not just numbers. So it's like a collaborative effort that
Yeah.
we're putting.
I think that's for me the big
It's not how
advantage.
too bad.
No, but it's yeah, you need to go so quickly, and I think also our relationships with our writers are the same. You know, we can call them, whereas like not in all cases obviously, but generally we can move really quickly with the writers, and we have a big roster, but it's not so big that we don't know who the clearance contacts are, and we can always build this kind of relationship of transparency where we can say like, okay, if you're looking at this artist, then we might need a bit more time because there's 6 writers, or there's someone who's looking after someone's estate, or like it can be complicated. But I think by us just letting you guys know and setting the expectations, and that's also an opportunity for us to pitch alternatives where it's like, oh, we know you kind of want this, but that might become difficult to clear. So how about this new signing that we have? So that's how we, sometimes manage to get something new in there. So
Yeah, I guess trustworthy relationship, long-lasting relationship, they allow to make all these happen, especially with tight deadlines, because of course, just calling an unknown person and requesting something from one day to another might be more tricky than somebody you've been working with for years.
yeah.
How so? How would you say that? Excuse me. I'm sorry. I have a little blank. Yes. Sorry.
Good thing
So
to
what
do
would
it.
you say are some of the, excuse me, thank you. Just had a little moment. What would you say are some of the key things that you look into, for example, from the side of a fashion house, but also from the side of a record label or a publisher into your collaborator? For example, for you, what is really important beyond the catalog? Of course, having a very interesting catalog is key. But beyond that, what would be some characteristics that you look into your collaborators on the other side?
I also work a lot with booking agencies, and I felt like some agents or some people I'm often in contact with really understand the values of the house. And I really appreciate when some people are reaching out to us, sharing new artists, and that instantly feels like a connection with some past artists we work with. And I really feel like they are presenting it to us because there is a connection with a certain aspect of the type of projects we are developing. So I think, yes, this kind of shared sense of creativity, shared values also, and having some partners and collaborators who really understand what type of artistic or music direction we do, what type of projects we do, but also what are the real values of the house, which can be specific to Hermès, to Louis Vuitton, to other brands. And I think that's really important. And as we just discussed, I think fashion and we work with such tight deadlines that it's always really, we are always really grateful when we have trustful partners who can really understand super quickly and react when we have last minute changes. Also, one thing that is really different from my previous experiences in working with artists is that we don't send firm offers to artists, so it's always placing options, checking availabilities, reaching out for ballpark of a budget, and we also need the collaborators in agencies to understand this, because it can be a little bit tiring when you ask for an option but it's not working, so you come back 6 months later for. So I think there is this back and forth, which is really
That's really interesting, Charlotte. How do you manage this eventual disappointment from side of an artist? For example, if you request or you get a potential request for a show and request some approvals, but this finally doesn't happen. Does that happen often? And
Oh,
do
yeah.
you take some precautions?
It happens all the time. So like I think on both sides, it's just, I think the role of a sync person, it's a lot of expectation management. Obviously, we have so many stakeholders, and so we have like clients on their side, and then we have managers or artists, and you pitch them a lot, which is the only thing we can guarantee, I guess, is that we get the opportunities, or that we increase the opportunities, but then it's completely out of my hands whether it's going to land or not. We can negotiate about a price or a fee or creatively brainstorm, but you just never know. There's so many different decision makers in the process, and like Vincent or Marie can really love something, but then it might not be the right fit, or not be the right timing or product or whatever. So on my side, I think we have this understanding that we're not going to get our hopes up until the contract is signed. You just have to wait, basically, and maybe like keep your fingers crossed. But I think at least the good thing with most of the fashion projects is that, in comparison to like film or TV, is like in film and TV, you sometimes clear a song and you approve it like months or maybe sometimes a year before it eventually comes out. So then you have managers obviously asking every month, like, any news? And then it's like, it's not even in the edit, so we don't know. But at least with fashion, we'll have a pretty quick answer. So there's a pretty quick disappointment.
Oh,
There was
I
not,
know. Stab.
rip the Band-Aid off, basically. There was not
Yeah.
months of
The pain
anticipation.
is short.
Or it's a really quick success, right? I mean, we had a recent project, didn't we, with the latest female fragrance, the Louis Vuitton fragrance.
Yes,
And
that worked out very well.
yeah,
With a
and
very
that happened
interesting
really
artist of
quickly.
yours, ML Book.
Yeah.
But I like this topic because I'm not no, not that I like it, but
No, but
You
I
like
realize
interesting.
yeah.
I
like it
request
too, that we
so
speak about
many.
that.
It's not like a
Always.
formal request, but I knock on so many doors. Was like, would you be interested doing this for this, blah blah. So I usually hit pretty wide, and because that's what is expected for me internally, to present as many options, and I want the option to be quite, at least not guaranteed, but doable, and I blame myself because I'm not taking enough care of all the people I let down on the way. I didn't let them down, but at least I didn't come through with the project in the end. And I'm happy that I'm working with people like Charlotte and other that will do that job for me, of saying, okay, they were like really trying to do it. They didn't work out well, but we'll do it another time. All that job that I should be doing, she's doing it for me, and that's very appreciated. Because yes, sometimes I don't have, or I forgot, or I don't have time to answer properly to anyone. Be like, thank you for pre-approving these ideas. It's not going to work out. We'll go another way, another direction. But at least I can't even imagine what it'd be to be the artist waiting. Not that it's that much money, but still, it's something maybe different. And 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 it's not only one artist; she represents like thousands, hundreds, and so she has to make a lot of phone calls. Be like, this is not working, and on the scale, there is obviously more no than there are yes. Um, but everybody, I'm grateful. Everybody is playing the game with us, and I appreciate it. I haven't run into a situation where the artists were like frustrated because last time it didn't work out and they didn't want to try again. Uh, People are willing to go down that route with us, which is like uncertain to say the least, and sometimes doesn't make any sense. Um, some musical idea felt like obvious to me, like it's gonna work out, it's gonna be perfect. Then it's not, and we go somewhere else. But that's not easy, and it's not easy maybe also for me, but also for all along the line of communication. So yes, so say thank you for all the no's I said, all the no's I didn't wrote back to tell you about.
It's okay. I have a thick skin now.
Is the queen the king of the nose? No.
No.
Okay, thank you too. But well,
This is great. Keep going.
I guess it's not only one person saying no, but there's so many also people involved in taking the decision, and finally a
Yeah,
great idea
absolutely.
can come from a corner and being killed by another corner, or like so. Actually, it would be we would love to know how many layers of validation do you have when it comes to finally picking a track? Is it all come down to one person, or does it, yeah, if you can tell us a little bit about the process of it, of getting a song.
me?
Yes.
I'm not in-house, so for the validation process, maybe
Yeah, you don't
I
have.
may not
Yeah,
be
you have
the
an
better
idea. I know you
person.
have an
I
idea.
have an idea.
It's
The less, the best.
the less the better.
So when it comes to fashion show, I think it's the less, because it's all around the designer, a collection, a date, a concept, and so there's not much marketing to get involved. I mean, at least so far. So it is, yes, a designer, a sound designer, concerning what's digital, music supervisor, and yes, the how do you call it, the management, top management, the
Sometimes.
you just for the, yes, sometimes,
Uh,
or just a validation. It
Fashion shows are special because
depends of the house also.
they are like unique, organic things that are kind of out of the main system in a way. Which so yes, those are at Vuitton, if Pharrell or Nicolas Guesque want something, I usually don't have to worry about like someone else in the company not feeling that is right for the brand, because that's really their playground, the show.
Yes, but
But
maybe
but
financially, maybe.
and then yeah, financially is another element. Yes, sometimes it was. But then it really depends on the project. I can have one person. Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes it's just me, my boss. It could be up to. I'm not even talking about people that can mention they don't like and want to have it change. I'm talking about just about person that needs to approve it. It can go to 7 or 8 person.
That's why some no's can happen sometimes. Yes.
Yes, but we are working with also intelligent people. So I would say most of them, they can feel if there is some dynamic going on and general excitement. They're not gonna they're not gonna block the idea just for the sake of it. But sometimes it happens, and sometimes for good reasons. So yeah, it really depends, and that's pretty much why you have to be on the edge all the time and being like, yes, nothing is really confirmed until it is.
Yeah, and it's true that nowadays, I mean, there is also because we wouldn't pay much attention like even 5 years before. Now also the lyrics have become something super important. Also the message, before the music was not interpreted that literally on the music, and now yes, some
You're
that's
totally
rather political or ethical.
you're
That like we will use a song with a word, and this word, oh no, we don't want to use this word. So, okay,
yeah, you're right.
but it's something you have to.
That's another layer of validation too. It's also, I'll say something a little bit. I don't know if it sounds that good, but it's also because we're French, and most of the music we use is in English, and so for the audience, for the direct first audience, I personally listen to music as a global thing, and sometimes I feel the vocal to be just another instrument, but I'm sure that it had more. It was the case for English speaking countries a little bit more, and on top of it, now we're in a new, I don't know, cultural dynamic where the message feels more important and has to be even more tailor-made to the
Yes, very
brand
sharp.
value and at least the cultural scene we're
Completely.
talking about.
Would you say to be not controversial, or
No, I mean, for speaking on my opinion, it's not even. It can be a simple word. Not that is not a bad word, but just that it could be interpreted, and sometimes the interpretation goes a bit far. But that's my opinion.
Mm. I don't have guidelines on this. It's on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes something that doesn't really ring a bell with me will be like, are you sure? Or the other way, sometimes I think it's a little bit like we've recently had a women fashion show with uh, the the cruise show in Avignon. The soundtrack was made with different tracks of a French artist called William Scheller. Um, and the first track has like it's like kind of fantastic tales is saying. So it's more like a story than anything, but it has a lot of um, religious reference to it. And we were thinking, is it something appropriate or not appropriate? And it was discussed, and we thought that because he's telling a story itself like a book, it's not an issue. But yeah, you're right on the fact that we were paying less attention to this a few years back than we are now.
I guess fashion is still the space where there's the most freedom to use diverse array and more bold music than other spaces where they have to be much more careful, let's say, for that. Um, uh, Sidney, for you, since you're working more on the event side of things, would you say it's also very designer focused in terms of selection and final say on songs, or
It really depends on the type of projects. If it's a runway after party, or of course a runway soundtrack. Nadège Vanier for Women's and Véronique Nichanian, they have the final word. They really know what they want, so it's quite streamlined. For other type of projects, it can be much more of a dialogue between the creative team in Paris, but we also do the artistic direction for many artistic collaboration worldwide. So if there is a project in Singapore or Japan or Mexico or the United States, we are in close collaboration and dialogue with the local teams, and it's sometimes key to have their feedback also, because we cannot, I mean, we listen to a lot of music, but we are not expert of all the music scenes, so it's always important to have their local perspective. Maybe this artist, there was a controversy on this artist a few years ago in Japan, and from here we are not really aware, but yeah, it's always important to have this dialogue, and I think brands and everyone is much more careful and sensitive of avoiding bad buzz or controversies. So
beyond also bad buzz or controversies, I know because we have the pleasure to working with you on some of the men's catwalk, that Hermès is, at least on that side, is championing a lot of independent artists and upcoming acts, and we're wondering if it was a very active decision, and if it's a mission that you would think that you could say is part of the fashion house mission, or is it very specific to the designer?
it's I think it's global approach, and it's really part of the DNA of the brand also. I think Hermès outside of music is also really helping and promoting young artists. Could be a drawer, a designer, scenographer, even like on some of the objects, on the scarves, you can have Sugimoto doing one scarf, and then you have a really young artist who just graduated from the Beaux-Arts 5 years ago. I think it's really part of Hermès values to to really collaborate with different types of notoriety and really support also young artists. And for men, it's really specific also to Véronique Nichanian and Thierry Planel, who has been working with her since a long time. And there is really an active decision, I think, coming from her that she likes indie, a certain type of artist and indie music. But also I see it on other events. Like we have no, it's not like we are only focusing on emerging or young artists, while I sometimes see other brands or organizations who are really youth oriented, let's say. We can work one day with a really young 22 years old country guitarist and the next day with Kim Gordon or also no.
That's amazing. I mean, it's a great example for me on how it's possible to champion independent artists and artists who are not necessarily known, but to a wider audience, but not compromising necessarily on the quality. So that's great. And so you say that sometimes you can work with a very upcoming act or a very established one. The other day, how do they or you and the team balances this consideration in terms of commercial considerations, and is it project driven, meaning we have this big project, we will need an established act, or does it happen that you can actually have a big scale project where you put forward a more upcoming act?
It's really open. Hermès is not communicating a lot about those events and those artistic collaboration, which I think is also really great for the artist because they are free to experiment. They are free to, we can build up new collaborations, new projects, and it's not gonna be on the social media the next day. So I think this is part of a global strategy, obviously, but this gives us much more flexibility and freedom also on the type of artists we can collaborate with, because we are not focused on the notoriety, the trendiness, or the number of followers on Instagram. It's more like, it's really project driven. It's really, everything comes from a creative brief, or from a venue, or from a history we can have with a certain place or a certain Hermès subsidiaries. It really starts from here. And then, of course, there are many other layers, budget, timeline. Some projects, of course, we have more freedom to invite much more established artists, and there is also really various type of projects. It can be a really small dinner for 20 persons in Mexico, and the next day a big party in New York. So of course, it's not the same type of artist you would think of, but I think that's really part of everything we do.
So it's more driven by sensibility and a creative choice. Would you say it's the same at Louis Vuitton?
Yes, I was never given any guidelines about what kind of music, type of music should be used in a company. We are. I don't think we don't have a global strategy on that part. We're more pragmatic, and we try to make it best. Let's say musically speaking. For example, we can sometimes work with a very big artist and use a very obscure track from his catalog, and I'm not judged on the fame of the artist I'm bringing in the project. It's more about the musical relevancy. It can be a plus if an artist has like an interesting story or is making some headlines, but it's really not the main factor. And I had people being really super happy with a electronic piece that was made by one kid in Munich in his bedroom, and also disappointment about tracks that from really established artists. There is no real there's no unique solution to the problems. And then of course we adapt with the budget. It's just like we're not necessarily aiming for small or big, but at some point budget comes in, and then it opens or close some doors, and then you can choose to open them or not.
For you, Marie, is it because you work on a diverse range of projects and in advertising? I think it's very specific to the fashion world, isn't it? That there is this freedom of choosing, really based on creativity and not necessarily on the act. In specifically, for us at Too Young, we work in supervision also in different advertising. Type of advertising, and sometimes creative director even want an established act. Is it yes,
sometimes,
right?
Sometimes yes, sometimes
did it ever happen to you that you managed to counterbalance, that you had a situation where you were requested to bring an idea or a solution that involved a very established act, and you managed to push for a more upcoming one?
not really.
Not
I'd
really.
say it's not as direct as this, but what you mean that who's?
I guess it's more by pitching. Charlotte might be also familiar.
Yes, on the synchro side, yes, there is always, I mean, often a need for backup solutions or plan B or plan C.
Right.
Again, when it comes to fashion show, we sort of try to anticipate a long time ago when we have a hint that it is going to be difficult, or I that's when I approach the people a long time in advance, and then if it doesn't work, we switch to another idea, and it could be yes, a recorded music instead of a live. I mean,
Right. That
but I don't see a precise example. But we often yes, for example, because it's not obvious for everyone, but when there's a fashion show, there is a live music for the people that are seeing the show, that are sitting in front of the catwalk. And so part of my job is to clear that music for the digital versions of it. So for the rest of the world, which is to me the most important part. I mean, now it's fantastic because the show is really comes to the world like of simultaneously. So, but it implies to clear the rights, and sometimes you just have like a mega mix of unclearable things. So you're not going to try. You have to find different solution. It cannot be. Sometimes it's just replacing a track or getting rid of a track, but you have to keep the consistency this time, relevancy, and not showing the same thing to the press and the people with their iPhones that are posting the show afterwards. That's another story, and what you show to the rest of the world. And I think there is many ways to react to this, but so far we are trying to stick to the reality. I mean, for at least the big luxury client, which have the budget and also the conviction that is key to send the same message all around and to be consistent with that. But for a smaller brand, it is not a problem. Even cool brands, but it's not a problem to switch from another track or two other tracks that we heard at the brief, and we maybe thought of for the show, but finally it didn't go, and we just do some. That's also when we work more efficiently with pitch and stuff like that. What I wanted to say is that we're not trying to make a sound alike. We because it never works for me. Like something that would sound like it's always a disappointment because you already have the perfect thing in mind. So everything you will hear, you will go, oh, no, it's not the same. So why not directly switch to something else? That is, voilà, je crois. Stop here. Sorry. Thank you.
you mean you sound like when it's a brief for an original composition and creating a piece specifically for the project, right?
Yes, I was thinking of a mix of an editing of different commercial music track.
Right. Vincent, you worked a lot on some original compositions for Louis Vuitton. Is it something that is regular, you would say?
Not this. It's not the most part. No, it's we most of our project for image and communication is really recording music. For shows, we had some composition. Also for campaigns, uh, we did, but it's and one way or the other. To go back to the sound alike thing, I tend to agree with Marie is that in our position, it's really not the right idea, which is still an idea which is very much in place in many advertising agencies, where you have a reference and your job is to find the something very similar. Honestly, it's really difficult. As she said, as soon as you hear the initial choices, then it's impossible to get rid of it, and you'll be disappointed by the alternative. So, uh, and even more when you do composition, um, it's great to have reference, but the reference cannot be the brief. You need something further to make it unique for obvious legal reason too, but also because I don't know, it's a recipe to failure to fail. It's going to be a failure if you're really looking into something too specific.
Or two, yeah.
So, and I wish I would do more composition, but it's really time consuming. Uh, in the company, as we mentioned before, we have so many people involved giving an opinion, so we would end up working too many versions without like any guarantee of success. So we're doing a little bit more the past year, and with very small composer or bigger independent artist, but it takes more time, which I don't have. So I'm not pushing it for it to happen.
Right. I guess with if you do it with also artists that have a very specific artistic voice, it can be a bit faster than briefing a composer and telling them exactly what to do. But it's still time consuming and depends on the agenda of a lot of those acts. And for you, Charlotte, is it something that you've been working on and
Yeah.
with your artists?
Maybe unpopular opinion, but I also prefer just licensing existing songs, exactly for the same reasons. Especially for fashion shows, there's such tight deadlines, and we've had a couple of instances where, for example, we did for Acne Studios. Sidney Minsky Sargent from Working Men's Club has composed some stuff. Igloo Ghost as well. We've had some Adidas stuff, but the fees are actually quite low for bespoke stuff. It's very time consuming given the deadlines, but also I guess most indies have small teams. So there's a lot of hand holding, a lot of back and forth. It's cool, obviously, when it happens, and we obviously always still welcome the opportunities with open arms, but it's easier to license existing songs in shows. Yeah.
I guess as well, yeah, it's easier and it's for fashion brands. It's also originals. No, it's not doing the sound alike kind of copy of something. If it's easier to if it's too easy to fall into that. But
Yeah, I think particularly in fashion, like if we're looking at what kind of briefs we're getting, or compared to other ads, I think that's why I think for indie music there's so many opportunities in fashion. It's because it's not about the sound alike, or it's not about we need this exact like target audience that needs to match with the artist audience, or they have to have a certain X amount of Spotify followers, or have to be active or popular in these markets. Whereas like I think that's where we lose very often compared to bigger major artists in other industries and ads. And where we have a little like sweet spot for fashion, because those rules usually don't really apply. And yeah, I think if we're looking at the licensing history, it's more often that we license the maybe the non-obvious artists, or especially if it's a bigger artist, we will license like the non-obvious songs. For example, we have Stereolab and Sneaker Pimps on the publishing side, and we would maybe license like a deep cut from years ago that we just dust off, and that's more exciting for us as well than kind of the biggest hit from the biggest artist that we work with, maybe.
Right. And yeah, we only have about 5 minutes left. So to finalize the panel, I would like to ask you a very broad question based on your personal opinion. But we have been speaking about this intersection about fashion and music, and it has a historical bond, a historical relationship. What do you think is that music is so vital to fashion compared to other spaces, and what do you think it can help express that visuals alone cannot?
Art needs art.
Sorry?
I mean, fashion design, and music are two arts. I mean, they need each other. I think it's not a new story. I mean, artists, I mean, rock bands or any bands. I mean, they have an idea of their image. They use also the style. Then after it becomes fashion, but they know that it's a super important way to tell their message. How they dress and.
Yeah, they influence one another, basically.
Yes. I mean, music needs fashion, and fashion needs music. So
I think they are linked in a very obvious way. Sometimes there's a little bit mythology also about all this, because of stardom and culture and nightclubs where people were meeting that felt like kind of iconic. So it stayed a little bit, but in the end, music is essential to cinema. Music is essential to real life.
Yeah.
Going out, it would be very weird for us to spend one day walking and going seeing play without any music somehow. So it's also energy dynamics between celebrities, whether it's for a brand or an artist, and so they kind of need each other, inspire each other, but again, it's not like I think brands can be jealous of, I'll say it again, the style of some of the artists. I wouldn't say they wear the dress, but the style, and some artists kind of recognize themselves and maybe some of the designer work, and then it's like win-win for everyone if you manage to associate your clothing brand with something so emotional as music, and the other way around. So that it's an easy bridge between those two universe. Um, it also has like this very strong commercial potential. Um, Kids, they are like they are fans, and they look up to the musical stars, and so they attachment image association can work very fast, because there are two kind of um, primitive feelings. I know that person looks and what you hear is it all, so it connects. It makes sense that there is like this strong connection in business, and that's how we come to know each other, all of us.
Right. Any words for ending that you would like to add?
I
No?
have nothing to add to
right.
that. No.
So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. And yes, we have some time, I think, for questions to the audience, if you have any.
Hi there. Thank you so much for this. Really, really interesting. My name's Martin Sutton. They're from Very Syncable, history as a composer as well. I'd love to ask you, when somebody sends you new music that you haven't heard before, each of you, what sets you on fire?
Personally, I'm still curious about any music like when I was 13, 14 years old. So always said to myself that's the most important thing, I think, to do that kind of job is the curiosity. So I can be, and I'm really a music lover, so I'm really focused on the music I receive, and I try not to pay attention to the rest. I know it's difficult to not look at the press image or look at the press text or the storytelling, but I try just to listen to music and to, I think trusting our ears is also really important, and having clear taste and to know when something is just resonates with you or don't. So yeah, can be many things.
I'm in a tough position because I don't do A&R, so I'm still, when it comes to the music I don't yet work with, I still have the luxury of just being or becoming a fan, which is a very nice place to be in. It sucks sometimes that if I do come across someone sending me their music or sending me music for consideration for sync, I unfortunately can't directly help them because we don't really sign acts just for the sake of sync either. But I'll always, I'd always love to listen and share feedback if that's desired. And I do obviously work closely with our A&R team, so I do get to pass along certain things. But I guess what I think, I probably listen with a more sync ear, and the A&R team listens with a much wider ear. Maybe for them, potential like syncability is not so relevant because they look at other factors. So yeah, it's a different way of listening, but I still very much enjoy receiving music. I think we all do. Otherwise, why are we even here? I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's I'd say something, sincerity and a universe, like someone that brings his own universe. That I don't know if that comes, if that's understandable, but yes, not something new. It can be maybe just something new and something old, a vision. A vision, not in a pretentious way, but a vision or a
Personality.
twist or something that would think like that. It's, if you're asking, it's not to set on fire, but to ring my brain.
Me, I don't know. It's just I think whenever I hear new music, the first thing I do without even realizing is making connection with other music that I know, which is kind of weird because that would imply that I wouldn't consider something that I don't know of. But I think that's the way my brain works. And to come back to my sync here versus my personal here, I know I've both. There's the frontier is very thin, or it's kind of blurry now. But I do believe I hear with my personal brain first, and then maybe the more professional potential aspect comes later. The day it changed, and I'm listening to all new music with that Louis Vuitton here. I don't know. I may have to reconsider things then, but it's not the case yet.
Yeah.
Great. Do you have any other question?
J'avais oublié. The second brain.
Thanks all for this very interesting conference. Charlotte, you said that most of the time you license tracks, existing tracks, and well, not that often you produce bespoke music. And what about covers? Is this something that you like doing, that you do very often? I'm referring to creative cover. I mean, like a piano voice of a punk rock song, not like a copy of the original one, which I think it's terrible. So what about covers?
Yeah, it depends. We do have a bunch of covers in our catalog. That being sometimes artists we have on the master side, and we might only own the master right for certain songs. But then on the publishing side, there, for example, we published the works of Arthur Russell, and he in particular, especially in the fashion world, is a really good example of. Ever since he passed, tons of artists kind of keep his repertoire alive by making new versions. So one example actually that we worked on together is Speaker's Corner Quartet together with Terza, who we also have on the label and publishing side. They made this beautiful new version of This Is How We Walk on the Moon, which is by Arthur Russell. And Marie was actually the first one who licensed this in a Chanel Métier d'Art show, I think it was, 24,
right.
25?
Yes, it was the show, opening the show in Kyoto.
Yeah. And it was beautiful because this cover was actually created for a BBC show, Mr. Loverman, it was called. So this was one of those beautiful examples where a cover was kind of made for the purpose of sync, but in the TV kind of sphere, kind of snowballed into fashion. And then after Chanel, Lacoste also used it for a fashion show. So it is, I think, a relevant way of also keeping like older copyrights alive, or in a new kind of source. I think we had another situation where we published the Jesus and Mary chain, and it was for, I can't remember the brand now, so I'm not going to mention the wrong name. But there was like a really up and coming band from Japan who made a cover, and that was synced for a fashion campaign. So I think it's very relevant, and I think it happens all the time that it gets licensed for fashion purposes.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks. Is there any restriction or something that you see on a political aspect of the artist that you say, okay, this is like a red flag?
We again, no specific guidelines, but same as with the lyrics, we are slightly more aware of this. I'm not a PI detective though, so I don't make a profile on all the artists I'm trying to work with. I don't know all their personal life or data or maybe even political inclinations. I try not to pay that much attention to it unless there is something obvious. Then I can censor myself automatically or talk to someone within the company in the corporate side of it to see what they think of it. Yeah, of course, I'm not on my own. I'm representing a very important corporation, and I have to be careful about it. But we try. That can happen, but at a later stage. We don't want to close door right now, unless a very high public scandal, then it's kind of obvious. But we tend to remain open. But we do sometimes go a little bit deeper, see if there is like everything feels relevant. But again, it's kind of a new territory, and I think it's going to be more and more important in the future, whether it's their behavior, values, everything is going to come in play at some point. And the bigger the project is, the more attention we'll pay to this.
And it can happen the other way around
I was
also,
gonna say,
where
yeah.
the artist would not necessarily
Use of
associate
fur,
with the
for
brand.
example. The use of fur has been quite a big thing, or mainly with makeup, it's animal testing. So very often, like when we speak to management, when we're clearing a song, we need to figure out like the animal testing policies. So it goes on both sides. I think bit of a reputation check.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to our guests as we got to learn a little bit more about the behind the scene. Yes, we'll just end here. Thank you.
Merci Malika.
Merci.
Merci, Malika.